Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 109th episode of our first run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours, playing as the Archaeologist. I am the librarian of Hush House, and this journal will record what arose from my crime and my curse. The Archaeologist's dearest wish when they came to the house was to record a history where their crime could be forgiven or redefined. But you can complete the game by recording any history. You might wish to begin your studies with the Skolakosophy wisdom. I opened a tomb and found too late that it was a prison. The plague that I released is now my shadow, or perhaps I am its reflection. It is too late to set matters right, but it is never too late to protect the future from the past. In Hush House I can do no harm. Perhaps I can even make amends. So, we have a couple of things just to finish off in terms of the day's work. I'm going to be getting the Thunderskins Paean. Now that's going to be so that I can clear out the experiment beyond sight. And honestly, at this point, it might make sense for me to just sort of pull ahead and do the same for In the Mountains as Upon the Plain. There may not be a path where none has passed. Ask for it by name. And Lion and the Glass. But at this point, I'm being a little stubborn because I was convinced that I was going to be able to clear out Experiment Beyond Sight, and it didn't turn out. So, but we'll do that. We're going to be reading a few more of the books here. We talked about that at the end of the last episode. And then we may make it to winter. If we do, of course, we'll see whether or not Numa hits us. But the main goal right now, skill-wise, it's going to be to level up what I can in terms of the remaining, the remaining elements here. The remaining books here, rather. But the other thing that I'm debating about would be decisions to open up certain parts of the house. This one's a little bit of a hard call for me just because in some cases I've got things like wire. So I could use those to get Denzil to open up something like the sealed cell or the stifling chamber. But the challenge here is that it's hard for me to say that I really need to do that right now when I have so many books that haven't been dealt with. So I'll give myself the option, but it's a judgment call in terms of how I want to spend my time, really. And I will decide. There were a couple. I always like the comments that you all leave, so thank you. Well, maybe not all the comments. It depends on what the comment is, but for the most part, they're lovely. And I do particularly like the ones where people, for one reason or another, the algorithm sort of sent them here, but it's in the middle of the playthrough. And it's, some of my favorite comments. And if you've left one of these, just know that you absolutely delighted me. And thank you for staying if you get to hear this. But it's like, I have no idea what's going on, but this is weird enough that I want to hang out. So one of the intentions that I do have is when I start unlocking some of these rooms, I am going to do as much as I can, sort of an overview in terms of what got us here. Because especially in this part, this is where the story really starts going into some crazy bits. But I don't want to give away too much. So for now, we'll just embrace the madness. But with all of that introduction out of the way, let's finish off the day's tasks, and then we'll see. Hey, another package, contraband flotsam. Where do I even put this thing? Let's put you in the Stibulum transitus. Let's put you on the ground. Let's try that again. All right, unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky, so basket of apples is always welcome. Doesn't count as, it's fruit, it's sustenance, fruit, the womb of a plant. Some of you will know why I giggled at that. For those of you that don't, we will get to that. It has something to do with this queen. So I want to keep an eye on just the little indicator up here. If it seems like we're going to lose the day before this completes, I do want to make sure that I keep one of these other memories. We should be good, though. All right, Thunderskin's Paean, a song of joyous sacrifice. So this is sort of my self-made storm. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. I say it's my self-made storm. It has heart, it has grail, and it has scale, so it doesn't count as a storm if I need the sky. But we have other ways of generating a high amount of sky, of course. Okay. I will actually, just for the interests of clarity, I'll maybe explain briefly how crafting works, because that will be relevant for specifically why I'm doing certain things with the experiment beyond sight. But we'll wait for the day to start. Okay, so for those of you, we're 100 episodes in, but again, I need to acknowledge that YouTube is sometimes going to throw some people in here. There is, by the way, a really fun phenomena that happens in the subreddit for this game. So the company that makes this game is called Weather Factory. And occasionally what will happen is people will come into it with weather reports. And there was, I think, someone who was actually specifically looking for some weather data for a project that they were working on. So for the most part, the community is quite nice, and they'll sort of direct people where they need to go. But it is quite funny when you're seeing this strange occult game, and there's somebody who's looking, they're giving you some photos of snow or something like that. It is a bit charming to see the lost show up. But for this case, I'm going to assume that the algorithm has brought you here for one reason or another. So in this game, you're sort of responsible for repairing and maintaining an occult library. This has this special role in what I think would best be described as sort of an alternative history called the Secret Histories. And the reason why I hesitate to say that is that in this world, there are multiple histories. There are five known histories, and then there's some discussion in terms of maybe even more. But it is the first game that was set in this was called Cultist Simulator, and essentially that game gave you sort of a peek at this occult world and all of the mystery and the confusion that comes from that. I always kind of like to say there's definitely some complaints about the difficulty and the learning curve for the game. It's a game that you learn by playing it. But I also would argue that you don't have, deep dark mysteries for dummies, right? What you're usually doing is you are reading these fairly, difficult texts, ones where people are doing their best to describe something that sort of defies description, and in some cases defies any common sense understanding of the world. Or sometimes they're just writing in code because there are people who do not wish them well for their beliefs. So in this case here, this is the slightly more friendly, cozier version of this, but what it's dealing with is sort of a world. It's a particular worldview, which is informed by these sort of occult ideas and traditions. So, for instance, you will have the world sort of divided among these different principles, and I always kind of like to compare them to sort of the forms from Plato. If you ever had to do philosophy in your in your studies, or if you, for whatever reason, really wanted to pick up Plato, or at least a book on Plato, while you were finding something for the bathroom, maybe. But in this case here, you will have all of these different principles, and they'll be attached to different things in the world. So, for instance, we've got Grail, hunger, lust, the drowning waters. The principle of Grail honors both the birth and the feast. And heart, the heart relentless beats to protect the skin of the world we understand. The heart is the principle that continues and preserves. And in this case, this is attached to an element of the soul, which is me, exuberance, instinct, and rhythm. And this would be distinct from something like my Faust, sight, perception, inspiration, all the glorious gifts. And in this case, a Faust would have the lantern aspect. Life is a pure flame, and we live by an invisible sun within us, Thomas Brown. Lantern is the principle of the secret place, sometimes called the house of the sun, and of the light above it. And sky, wind, storm, echo, song, the intricacies of mathematics and the principles of flight. Law's touch is lighter than we sometimes think, matters of balance, harmony, and necessity. And I will say it's not always exclusive to just one element of the soul. So for instance, Grail is also found in Arab, pride, compassion, hatred, and fear. And lantern is also found with whist, name, memory, that part which remains. Most librarians know that books have souls. Most librarians hope for books with simple souls of whist and nothing else. But in general, you'd say here that, you can associate Faust maybe more with reason, whereas core you would maybe associate more with sort of the corporeal. Not just that, of course, what it says in exuberance, instinct, rhythm. In fact, very few of these things are necessarily dealing with the corporeal, but you've definitely got something that's maybe a little more down to earth and something you would associate more with what you would think when you see heart. So in any case, with all of that said, so you have all of these different aspects to the objects in the world. Some of them sort of touched by this secret place or this this occult world. Some of them very mundane. So for instance, there are things that are things. The gentleman makes things his servants. The petty man is servant to things. And the way that crafting works in this game, or in fact a lot of actions work in this game, is you need to combine a certain number of aspects. You need to get a certain intensity in the correct areas. And one of the ways that this game makes crafting interesting is that you are restricted in terms of certain workplaces, in terms of what you can put in there. So for instance, at a desk, you can add an element of the soul, you can add a skill, and you can add memory. You can basically do that at any workplace because, of course, these are the raw materials with which you will make things, right? You have your knowledge, you have yourself, you kind of need to put yourself into something, whether you're woodworking or reading a book. But where you do it is kind of important. So generally we read books at desks and we do woodworking at, workbenches. So if you're at the desk, you can add papers. So something that's readable or blank, but it cannot be a phonograph record and it cannot be a reel of film. And then you can add a tool or an ink within the with section. That would be distinct from, say, the dispensary, which again will still take a soul, skill, and memory, but in this case it'll take a flower or remains, and it'll take fuel, liquid, or remains. And then there's some limits in terms of the certain principles that can be used. So for instance, this will take heart, knock, moth, and nectar, and that's distinct from the pale desk with lantern, scale, sky, and winter. So the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is that I ran into an interesting little challenge in terms of trying to remove a curse from a reel of film that I have, the Chionic Theoplasma. This book suffered the attention of one of the Chile names or ours, perhaps even a god from nowhere. This contamination can affect your tryst and health and spread to nearby objects. You can remove it with a skill that's effective against theoplasmic contamination and at least 7 heart. Now, normally when I want to try and remove a curse, I'll do it at a desk, but because this is a reel of film, I can't put it in that slot. And so the challenge that I run into is that the skill that's most effective to remove theoplasmic contamination that has heart is in fact one that can't fit in the projector. And so I needed to find another way of getting that 7 heart, which is what I'm about to embark on now. The other thing that I want to do, though, is level up my sights and sensations. So we're going to do something similar with that. There's an interesting way that this game sort of handles the idea of learning and knowledge. In fact, I will mention my day job is they're very, very good in the sense that they've invested quite a bit in terms of me learning, which I think is probably more of a statement to the fact that I need the education. but I'm actually kind of behind it. So one of the things I really love about the Weather Factory games is that there's always something in life for me to relate to. So in this case, this idea of being behind on a whole bunch of reading and feeling sort of rushed in terms of deadlines, this isn't just my gaming time. Anyways, hopefully none of my coworkers are watching. But in any case here, what I want to do here is I want to take this Sights and Sensations. So the way that you advance your knowledge in the game, the way that you move up your skills, will be you get memories, and you can get memories from books. But in order to level up skills to an even higher level, you need to take the number of memories equal to your current skill. So I want to take Sights and Sensations from 4. I want to take it to 5. I need 4 memories plus a lesson, and then I need to use an element of the soul. So in this case here, I'm looking for 4 winter or sky memories. And I've ordered the library in such a way that it makes it relatively easy for me to find those kinds of memories. Okay, so we will get the Savage Hymn. I'm just going to go for any kind of sky or sky or winter that I know Denzel won't be able to make himself. So an unfamiliar language, we'll put Sabazine in there. Okay, the Pale Desk. I'm not going to use health because I might do some more gardening today. I'm a little reluctant to use Whist, but I'm more reluctant to use the Fost. So we'll put that in there. Now, I will read the Perugian Diaries, but I may actually use that for something different. So I'm going to say I need 3 more for the sky or the winter. Okay, so Foresight doesn't give me sky or winter. Impulses, Gossip, Revelations, Intuitions, Hindsight, Regrets. Let's go for a Confounding Parable. So we're reading The Locksmith's Dream and Cursus. We will go for... So that's 2 of the 4 that I need. Okay, Beguiling Melody also helps. So that should be 1, 2, 3, and then I think probably, or actually we just read Glimmerings, so let's do Black Book of Brittany again. And we'll use a Shaft in this case. Okay, the Moon, the Cycle. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So what this is getting me is the memories for Sights and Sensations. However, we've got a full day ahead of us. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to read De Motu Corporum Viditorum, although I might be short on... No, hang on, I can use the Mazarine Fife. I may not have a desk with Sky, though. Crumbs. I might be able to get away with using the Fost. Yes. So what I'll do here is I'll take the Mazarine Fife, which is a tool with 3 Sky. So even though this is a desk that doesn't take Sky, we were able to use the Moth to... Well, the Moth and the Lantern, so... I can master this mystery, enough Sky to match Mystery Sky. And I think I'll wait to see what the weather brings before I commit to bringing Denzel in, but we probably will do that. Also do some fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brandcrude, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. Alright, so we'll see the weather. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So, actually, this may be an opportunity for me to try and clear out more of the curses. I'm going to take a minute to think about that, but I am definitely going to use the Thunderskin's Paean here. So here, the Menascate Reflections, because that's got the Forge aspect. It's also effective against Theoplasmic Contamination. I can add Core here because it lets me Right. I should have got a storm as well. Okay. Um, yes, I need one more item. All right, so the other thing that I want to focus on is my... sorry, I misplaced my pen. I want to look at whatever rooms I can open up. So basically anything with Sky and Heart are potential candidates. I'm slightly more inclined towards Heart if I can. So you've got the Wormnod Kitchen, although Winter will work there. Okay, looks like we really only have the one room, it looks like. Fair enough. So if I bring in Mrs. K for this, she's got the one heart. Actually, come to think of it, probably the Orchard Keeper would do that, and I wouldn't need to give up an element of the soul. So the tool would give us 1. Then our core would give us 2, which brings us up to 4. The Gale would give us 3, which brings us up to 7. And then the heart is where this gets tricky. So I guess there's the canned ham. So that takes us up to 9. The Witching to Sane I don't think gives 2 heart. I think that's better for Grail, and turns out I don't have any anyway. I think the best heart drink that I have right now would be the Rubywise Ruin. Now, I am sitting on a few Momets as well. Again, those are more powerful for Grail. But I guess the thing that I'm reflecting on right now is that this is really easy for me to get with Winter. So probably I should just use the Gale to get rid of the curse, and then we can focus on the some of the other priorities. So with that in mind, after all all the song and dance, we are in fact going to apply and then all right, attenuate Chionic Theoplasma. The DeWolf method, some credit it to Gideon, others to Ava. Okay, so I'll get Denzel to work out the some memories. Now, I don't think it would hurt for me to try and open up some rooms. So if I took Denzel, so we have 2 for a... In fact, I think I already did this once before. So with Denzel, we've got 2 on his own, 3 with a tool, 5 with metal, 7 with a memory, 9 with Honey Scar Jasmine Tea, but I need 12. Okay, so what am I missing here? Well, one option would be to use actual metal, so that brings me up to 11, at which point we could use almonds, which take him up to 12. Okay, I'm not crazy about using the almonds, but I think, first of all, if we've got a surplus, 3's okay, we can do better though. So I'll maybe order, well, I'll order some extra when I can. Well, okay, come on, I've got a desk. Carefully mark the creamy paper. Denzel rarely works for free, but he won't take payment for helping a friend. Denzel the blacksmith will lend me his strength for the day. So right now we're just going to chat. Actually, you know what? Let's level him up to begin with. So inspiration and determination. I think I'll go for 3 more almonds, because in the end, I don't think there's that many rooms with Forge that we're going to open anyway. Also, if I get a chance to order more copper wire, I should take that opportunity as well, but that strikes me more as a Cater and Hero thing. Although there's nothing stopping me from ordering from Cater and Hero either. Alright, the postmistress keeps the gate to the wider world. In her left hand is the lightning, which is to say the telegraph, and in her right the thunder, which is to say the only telephone in Brandkrug. Before her lies the cash register, which accepteth the greater currency and returneth its lesser children. Provide money equal to the cost, the postmistress will make out a postal order, so we just need 9 for this one. Complete the order. And yeah, I've decided let's get a couple more copper wire in here. The postmistress signs and seals the order and places it in the place that stamped orders are properly placed. Wait 3 days, she commands. Scratch tiny symbols on the flimsy form, and we'll do that one more time. Order a spool of copper wire from Cater and Hero. So sorry, I realized most of today was sort of explaining, but we're in a pretty decent spot for the next round. That's a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to spend some time leveling up Denzel. We're still working on the relevant memories for sights and sensations, so I don't have any worries there. Our course is fixed. Now, in terms of basics for Denzel, I do want to get those out of the way. So next up should be a tool, the tea, the metal, and the almonds. So the square, the mason's pride. I can lend my assistants something to help, increasing their abilities. And what I'm tempted to do here is to try and generate some more Thunderskins peons, just so that I can clear out these books. We'll see how it goes, but as I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So I will restore the shap just in case I need to use a bunch of elements of the soul. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Unhatched hymns. Hymns attributed to St. Lucia the Eyeless, patron of glassworkers and name of the hour called Menascate. The hymns venerate every sanctioned hour, celebrating them as the sun undivided, but also suggesting that each hour may become the next. Madrigad to watchman, watchman to wolf, and so on. The hymn of the phases celebrates the Menascate from whom we do not turn, for the truth which is beauty, the beauty which is truth, and the perfect balance between the two. The hymn of the reflections, more puzzlingly, celebrates the Menascate as the sister of Janus, mother of shadow, whose visage wondrous in emptiness can reveal all truths. So this savage hymn has two sky aspects, so a music that urges valor and violence, so we'll use that for sights and sensations. The Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Lopoli left Strathcoyne's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyne. For 4 years since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Lopoli served as Strathcoyne's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I still think Fraser's intentions are good, certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear the stream of eyes. We've agreed to part almost amicably." Lopoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of the journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the site of Old Lake Fucinus near Otuccio. This one we're going to put lower, actually. Locksmith's Dream in Cursus, the fifth and final volume of Teresa Galmier's notorious work, which began as an examination of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans, but became an account of her own occult journey. This volume was apparently never published, nor allegedly even written, yet here it is. The law goes all the way back to Stone. The keys cannot be held or owned. This had, I believe, the unexpected consequence that those outside the law may hold and own them, but even they cannot keep them. And of course a key is no more physical than a spirit, but a spirit may be housed in a body, and I have touched a key with my own hands. So the Legions hold the keys. I had thought the Legions only old and powerful transgressors of the crime of the sky, but I begin to understand that the crime of the sky is more even than it seems, and why a twin, who unites what is not to be divided, might accept Elysian as her name. The Black Book of Brittany, a volume of ink lore gifted to St. Brendan's by Brian of Brittany, who was made Earl of Cornwall after the Norman conquest. The black flower lies heavy, but the roots of the watchman's tree run deep, and they may not be hidden forever. The black flower, spoken of as a doom or guise, can be held at bay with the last ink of power, brewed from a pale mixture in the presence of sufficient winter with the arts of containment. Okay. So there's 3. I seem to have... I think I messed this up, and I'm 1 short, but I'm going to double check the slots. The Intimations of Skin. Fiendishly complex, weirdly distorted illustrations of Congress and anatomy by the haunted visionary painter Niels Fredrik Malsker. Malsker illuminates the evolutions of the names of the Grail with unfortunate clarity. It seems that a lovely who consumes an ivory becomes an ivory, a lovely who consumes a thirstly becomes a thirstly, a lovely who consumes a name of another hour might take its place. In the penultimate illustration, a lovely grapples with a fungoid knot that can only be a name of the crown growth. The lovely's mouth and other portals gape wide, and the growth name is already partially engulfed, but it seems that Malsker couldn't bring himself to illustrate the result, and the final illustration is only a scrawled, bloated obscurity. Okay, so for all of that effort, yep, looks like I was 1 short. Okay, well, that's fine. Unless I'm completely mistaken. No, because Sights and Sensations just needed 4. My bad. Okay. So what we'll do here, Sights and Sensations, we will probably attach that to Whist. So satisfying to have come so far. So that exhausts the lessons learned for Sights and Sensations. We're going to be moving on to Aronoscopy next. Now this isn't going to take a whole lot out of us. We'll need Moon and Sky. Now technically we don't have any of that right now, but I mean we could use the old wound. That's not that hard to get from Edict Martial, but we could just as easily get another Confounding Parable. The one last thing that I do want to do, though, the reason why I said I wanted to get a second memory on top of the Cheerful Ditty is that I'd like, if I can, I guess we can use any old element of the soul here. I'm still going to use the Faust. We'll make another Thunderskin's Paean. And then what I can do there is I can get another cheerful ditty, and then we can use that to clear out the curse in one of these other books. While I'm at it, let's also... There's a couple of easy ones for me to work with. So if I get another confounding parable, I can put that towards the Uranoscopy. And by similar logic, if I get a salt, I'm trying to remember which of these I was working on. Let's do Pale Lady and Prince of Wines. So that'll at least start me off with the 2 for Uranoscopy, and then we can move up from there. Now I still need to get a foresight. I actually also need to pour the tea. Should probably just make another pot at this point, but yeah. So for the remainder of the day, I want to use Denzel to open up the sealed cell. That's kind of at the very end of the day, though. I want, at the very least, to start working on the Uranoscopy, but I don't think it would hurt for me to start working on the Barrowchild's Elegies as well. In fact, probably I can just use Snow Stories to start reading that without any trouble. Just need one more. The catch here is that I don't have a winter tool. Oh, nope. The bronze knife comes through again. Alright, well, that's nice. But yeah, same sort of argument. I don't have... That is Rhyme and Remembrance, right? Yeah. So I haven't committed Rhyme and Remembrance, but it's clearly not going to stay at level 2. We have a little bit of time left in the season, so I want to try and get the lessons that I can to level those up. And because it takes a couple of minutes to read the relevant books, I've got enough to sort of level up Uranoscopy while still having a fighting chance at being able to work with what comes out of the Barrowchild's Elegies. Also, this is relevant. I did give the description of the archaeologist. So the Barrowchild, a Gaulish adept who won a place in the ranks of the Order Lamea, enumerates the great shadows laid to rest in tombs of power and discusses their various conditions. So this will definitely be relevant to what I read earlier on in the stream. But all of that will be handled in a future episode. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.